Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar where we will be just doing a demo of our new product, the Caseware Internal Audit. Now, from Caseware side, we do realize that internal audit teams today face challenges like fragmented processes, manual tracking, and difficulty aligning with standards. So we've built this product to solve these problems by providing a cloud-based integrated platform for governance and engagements. I am Renda Skumbi, the product owner of Assurance, and I've been deeply involved in the development of the solution I'll show you today. So we'll just jump right into this demo. Here we have our Caseware Cloud platform. Our two applications as part of our solution is built on this platform. It is secure, it is web-based, and it is accessible anywhere, anytime, as long as you have an internet connection. Also from Caseware Cloud, you can manage your people, processes, and data, and even things like your applications and access to them. Caseware Cloud also allows for real-time collaboration. This is what Caseware Clouds will look like. We've got our activities page, for example, our timeline, and within Caseware Cloud, I can manage things like entities, my users like staff and contacts, and I can also manage activities on Caseware Cloud. So just to show you, we have three types of activities in Caseware Cloud. The first one is our discussions, and then we have a task type activity and a file request. In today's demo, I will show you what a task looks like. I'm going to, for example, say upload the latest internal audit charter. I can add a description for this task, and then I can go and specify an assignee and set a due date. Now, the moment that I post this task, the person that I've assigned this task to will get an email to let them know, hey, there's something that they need to do. Also from this, you can see my list of activities I have now updated. And on the right-hand side, you can see I can change the status, for example. Currently, the status is open. And you can also add comments to this task to help you with that collaboration. Then Caseware Cloud also allows you to manage files. So again, from the hamburger menu, I can go to navigate to files. And from files, I can select new. And there you can see I can upload or I can use a URL link. The URL link is, for example, to your SharePoint. Today, I'm just going to show you the upload. So here I am dragging a file into the dialog. I'm saying OK to the share settings. And then you will see that this list will update once that file is uploaded. So for example, I've uploaded here the entity overview for this organization that I am auditing. And then on the right-hand side, you can see some details around that file, who created it and when it was created. That is just a quick overview of what Caseware Cloud is, our platform. Our internal audit solution consists of two applications built on this platform. The first application we have is IA Governance. And in this app, you will be able to manage activities outside of your engagement. So for example, we've got methodologies, we've got your charter, your strategy, setting up your audit universe, your audit plan, following up on those actions coming from your engagements. And then also we have the QUIP. The second application is the IA engagements application. And this focuses really on actually performing those engagements. You go through your 4 phases of pre-engagement planning, conducting, and concluding. So from your audit plan in IA governance, you will go and perform your engagements. And then those recommendations and actions that come from your engagements go back into IA governance, where you can then follow up on those actions from one place. So let's start with IA governance, the first of our 2 applications. I will show you our setup module, the manual around our methodologies, a little bit about the charter and strategy, and then I will also show you our audit universe, the risk assessment, and then those follow-up of the actions. So in this application, I am in Caseware Cloud, back to those activities. And I'm going to open the hamburger menu to go and switch to the application IA governance. When opening this application the first time, you will be prompted with these as 3 options. So you can choose your country, your language, and your organization type. Once I sign this off, it actually goes and generates some content within my application. So for example, if you chose a language other than English, that content can then be loaded with that language. And I'll show you a bit more on the template content a bit later. Also in my setup module, what I can do is I can manage how my risks are defined. For example, we have our risk categories, so you can set up which categories you want to use, and then also your scales for likelihood, impact, inherent risk, control efficiency, and residual risk. So under risk categories, let's go and add one new risk category, and we'll call it maybe something like environmental. So I'm typing in environmental, and then I click add. Now you will notice it's got a border around it. I'll explain that in a moment. The next setting to show you is just around our likelihood scales. So all of the scales work the same. On the likelihood at the top, you can see I can choose the number of scales I want to use. So I can choose, for example, 3 if I just want to use like low, medium, high, or I can go all the way up to 7 if I need to do more detailed risk assessment. Each of these options in the risk assessments in these scales, I can also go and modify because we do realize you guys are all very unique. So for example, I'm going to change the short name to XR to say it's extra grade. Now you will notice that this one also gets an orange border, and that is just to show you that's the things that you've changed in this round of changing. You can then go and click the apply button, and that actually goes and applies it then to the risks that you've already captured, which I'll show you in a bit. This is just to make sure that we do make those updates efficiently, and it doesn't update all of your risks every time you do change a setting. In IA governance, what your chief audit executives can also do is they can go and draft, customize, and formally establish methodologies for their internal audit manual. The application comes preloaded with a full library of methodologies that give you that starting point, so you don't start with a blank page. Now we know every organization is unique, and that's why these methodologies are completely customizable. So here I've got a methodology. I can see, for example, the title, description, all the fields in there that I can go and edit. And as part of methodologies, I've got requirements, and those requirements are like procedures, practical steps with responsible parties and tasks. So what this is you can actually go and build a form or a checklist that you want to attach to those requirements that your internal audit team members needs to go and complete. I can then mark this as prepared, and I can go and establish this methodology. So this is really where your draft manual lives, to say from you as the chief audit executive, you are just designing these methodologies. They're not yet in effect, and only the moment you click establish does it become effective. So now let's switch perspective and look at this from the viewpoint of one of your internal audit team members. So within IA governance, they can use the module My Work. And here you can see the methodologies that have been established by the chief audit executive. As an example, under objectivity and safeguarding objectivity, there is a requirement for me to go and declare gifts when I do receive them. And there's also a form attached. So what I can do is I can go and add a new task that we call it. And I'm going to choose the gift declaration form to be used because I need to complete it. Fill in myself as the assignee, and that creates a copy of that template from my methodologies. And now I can go and complete this form. So all of these types of things, if you think about your annual acknowledgement, you can all do within Caseware Cloud, within our IA governance application. I've submitted this, and now you can see the workflow stage has changed to submitted. Another way we support our internal audit teams is by providing ready-to-use templates for documents like your charter and your strategy. So here we provide you with draft versions of these documents. There's also my draft strategy. And again, because every organization is so unique, you can fully customize this. So for example, I'm going to change here the word forward to introduction. You're also able to print these documents to PDF, get them signed, and attach them back onto Caseware Cloud. Now let's move on to our core of our audit delivery, and this is the audit module. The first page within the audit module is our audit universe. So here I can see I've got an audit universe. We do provide you with like a starting point just to say, hey, these are the units that are typically there. But again, it's completely customizable. So we've got this organogram view, but I can also switch to the table view. So there under finance and management, I can see units that are below that one. I'm going to add a new auditable unit. Let's call it, for example, procurement. And I am setting the owner of this auditable unit, for example, the CFO. Once I save and I search in this table, I can go and find that auditable unit I just created. Our next page in our audit module is the risk assessment. So on this, I have a table here with risks that I've already identified, and I've linked them to certain auditable units. So what I will show you is just when you add a risk, this is what it looks like. I can add in my title, description, I can choose a category, my cause and effects. And then here I've got my risk assessment. So I can go and set my likelihood. I've set my scales as 5. So that's why I've got 5 options available. And notice as I choose impact, the inherent risk is then calculated based on those risks I've set in setup. Again, on control efficiency, let's say that's, for example, adequate. Again, notice as I choose that, the residual risk will automatically calculate based on what I've done in setup. And here is just to show you from the table side, this is the risk that I've just captured with my risk assessment. Now on these tables, we do have options that you can go and sort and filter, and you can choose which columns to show or not to show. Finally, we've got our recommendations and actions page on the audit module. And here you'll find a consolidated list of all actions arising from your engagement. Each action is clearly tracked with details like the engagement title, your root cause, the action plan that's for that recommendation or finding. You also can specify who's the owner of this action, a due date, and then finally your follow-up status. So this really ensures accountability and follows through on every recommendation. It helps your organization move from insight to improvement and ultimately to sustained value. That is on our IA governance application. Moving on to the IA engagements application. So once you've set up, for example, your audit plan, you've set which engagements you want to perform, you can then go and create engagement files to go and perform that work. I'll show you a bit about the 4 phases that we have and show you the documents available there. To start off with, to open it, I'm currently in IA governance. Again, to switch it in Caseware Cloud, I go to my hamburger menu and I select the other application engagements. In here, I see a list of my engagements that I've performed for this entity. I can switch to a different entity. and there's the engagements applicable to that entity. I can then go and create a new engagement file. For example, I'm going to call it the payroll and HR compliance. I'm going to assign a preparer to your reviewers, and then once I click save, it creates this engagement file. Here we've got our document manager with just that one document 101. Now notice once I accept these documents or that first procedure, I can see more procedures showing up. And back to my document manager, I now have more documents. So what this really just means is we do guide you through the process of your engagement based on the answers you've selected, based on things that you've completed. We guide you through that process. Now, I've continued somewhat with this engagement. So you can see some greens and blues happening all around there. And in each engagement on the document manager, we've got a built-in progress tracking. So when I look at the first one, pre-engagement phase, there I can see the number of outstanding, prepared, and reviewed documents. Gives a quick overview, just how far are we with this engagement, what have we done, what still needs to be done. And it's completely controlled by these sign-offs. So there I can see this document has been signed off by Rinda. And as a reviewer, I can then go and add my sign-off from Henry. On the review, on this sign-off, you can see the person that signed it off, and you can also see the date of when that sign-off happened. So this really gives you a quick overview, quick view of your engagement status based on these sign-offs. Then the next feature I'd like to show you is one of my favorite features. If I were in my audit days and I had this feature, it would have saved so much time for me personally, and that's why I really love this feature. So here we've got a type of document that we call a query, and this really helps us to be able to go and request information from, for example, your HR department or the payroll department. So instead of having to draft separate emails and tracking those requests manually, you can send these queries directly from the engagement itself. So here in this document, you will see on the left-hand side a list of requests that I've put down. So for example, your payroll register or your payroll adjustments. And now I can send this query to a contact. And that will, for example, be the HR manager or the payroll person in charge. So that is, for example, Samantha White. So I sent it to this one user. From their side, they will get an email as well to say, hey, someone has sent you a query, but please go and complete it. So again, just to switch the perspective, I am now logged in as Samantha White. That's the HR manager. The person can either click on the link, or what they can do is they can come to Caseware Cloud, log in, and in their activities list, they will see there's a query been sent. So it's a request for background information that I, as Samantha, need to go and complete. I'm going to open this query. You can see the details around it, when it was sent, for example, and then I can open the query to see the details. And those exact same questions that was on the auditor side is now on this Samantha side. And Samantha can then go and drag and drop documents from her desktop or from wherever onto this request to attach that. Once they are done, click submit. So these responses are securely sent back to the engagement. It maintains a clear auditable trail of every request and response, all without relying on external emails or shared drives. So just back from the auditor's view, in document 141, as documents are uploaded and submitted on the manager's side, on Samantha's side, for example, the auditor will see the updates from their side. So here you can see that Samantha has responded to this query. We also even capture, for example, when this query was sent. Now, me as the auditor, I can open this document to go and view the details of it. and decide, is this the information that I actually requested? Maybe it was for the wrong period. If it was, I can return this request, or I can go and accept it. So once I've accepted these responses, those documents that have been sent get automatically added to my engagement file. So here on the document manager, you can see that organizational structure has been added. So this really ensures that nothing is lost between the request and review process, and every exchange remains part of this audit record. Then moving on to our risk and control matrix. From the risk and control matrix, this is something that we've built from our side just to show you what we can do. We start with our activity objectives, defining what the process aims to achieve. You can add rows or they can be removed as needed. The next tab is our risks tab. And here I can capture details like your likelihood and impact. When I expand a risk, I can see even more details, for example, the description, and I can also link my risks to those activity objectives from the first tab. I'll now just show you how we can add a risk in our engagement file. So at the top is a plus risk. You can add your title, description, and again, link it to your activity objectives. In this case, I've linked it to more than one. Once I click save, my table is updated with that new risk. To go and assess that, I go into edit it. And here I can see again my likelihood, impact, and inherent risk fields. Now, as I complete likelihood and impact, inherent risk is calculated based on the risk scales that I've set up for my organization. So in this case, they've got 7 scales on each. I can also go and link my risks to controls. Moving then to our controls tab, here we have a list of our controls, and per control, I can specify things like whether it is a key control or not. That's the first one. Then I can go and specify whether it's adequate, whether I'm going to test it or not, and whether this control is effective based on that testing that I've done. Our next tab is then our matrix tab. And here again, I can see a list of my risks. But when I expand a risk, I can actually see the controls that are linked to that risk, as well as the results of whether I'm going to test it and whether it is effective or not. So that when I do my final risk assessment around control effectiveness, I have that information with me. So in this case, I'm going to choose my control effectiveness, and that will then also again calculate my residual risk based on what I've set up in my scales. Once I click save, the table will be updated with that information. So this dynamic matrix helps the audit team visualize how well controls mitigate risks, identify where weaknesses remain, and focuses our testing efforts on areas with higher residual risk. Then we have document to send. So in our engagements application, we've got a document type called checklists that you can use, for example, as a work program. So what I've done is, based on my risk assessments and my controls that I want to test, I've chosen this control 1. And I went and documented the procedures that I'm going to do to perform my control testing. So first off, I'm going to start with just obtaining documentation that I need to be able to perform these tests. And there you can see like the verify timeliness procedure that I actually need to go and test the control in. So I've already answered some of these procedures, already responded to them either as exceptions or no exceptions. And the first 2 I left blank. Now, from a preparer side, when I am actually performing these, I can add things like annotations. So on the first procedure, for example, I need to obtain some documentation. I've already obtained that documentation with my query, but I just want to link this procedure to that document. So for example, from my document manager, I can go and search for that payroll reconciliation. What this does is then it creates that link and you can actually open that document then from this procedure. This makes it also easier from a reviewer side. If they need to now go and verify that this has been obtained, they can see, hey, there's the annotation, open it up, and I can see. Now I'm going to switch just a bit to your reviewers then. From your reviewer side, we also have in our engagements application what we call reviewer tools. And this really helps you to be able to review quickly and easily. So for example, we've got this missing sign-off. So what this does on the left-hand side of those procedures that have not been signed off, it highlights it with an icon to say, hey, these procedures have not been signed off. What we can also do in engagements is we can then go and raise review notes. We call it issues. And I can tag the preparer, in this case, let's say Rinda, and to say, please go and complete this procedure. Because I tag this person in this review note, that person will also get notified that there is something to do. So this built-in linkage between your procedures, your evidence, and your issues helps you to ensure that everything is traceable. It helps with your audit quality and accountability throughout the engagement. And that is it from our engagements application. So just to recap what we saw on the governance side, we've got our methodologies, charter strategy, our audit universe, our follow-up, and we've got the QUIP module as well. On the engagement side, that is where you now perform those engagements from your audit plan and you send back the actions to your follow-up module. So really to sum up around our key features, what I've shown you now, we've got streamlined work programs. So this is really to simplify that assignment tracking of tasks so you can focus on what really matters. We have fostering collaboration with our activities functionality in Caseware Cloud. On continuous updates, we are going to be sending, continually updating both of these applications. And because they are cloud-based, you don't have to do anything from your side to get those updates. We continuously update them from our side. And we've also shown a bit about our enhanced communication with our queries functionality. We also have the tailored experience. This is where, for example, in your engagements file, you have questions, and as you answer those procedures, more procedures show up, or documents skip and hide, are visible or not visible. So we tailor that experience. We've got the built-in roll forward. Now, I did not show this, but just to mention, for example, on the human resources engagement that I've just performed, if I need to go and perform that again, I can do a roll forward, what we call it. And that basically will then copy, for example, your risk controls and procedures across to a new engagement so that you can, you don't have to document those things. We also have complete history, like on the query, you could have seen when the query was sent and when it was received. And then we also have the engagement management with that list of engagements per entity. This is something also that we are really focused on, is this isn't just a solution for our internal audit departments that are directly inside an organization. We also do support internal audit firms that service more than one organization. So those outsourced engagements you can also do within our applications. That's it for us today. Again, really thank you so much for your time. I hope you're excited as me about these products. We've had a lot of fun developing them, and we are also having a lot of fun sharing them with you. Have a lovely day, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.